Shalom. First and foremost, I want to give all praises, honor, and glory to Yahweh, Bahasham Yahushai, Bahasham Bracha Kodash. Double honors to the elders and the apostles of Great Millstone, and peace and blessings to the elect. And today we're going to go into the book of Jonah, and or Jonah, the first chapter. And it's a fairly short few chapters concerning the book of Jonah, but just a bit of background, right, concerning Jonah, right, which was a prophet of the Lord. We see that Jonah was placed, I believe, within the 8th century BC, which the 8th century BC is from 800 to about 701 BC, right, because time counts down, right, as you go more into the future during the BC era, right? And when you look up Jonah, right, if we cross-reference here, Jonah 1 and 1, we'll see here that he did prophesy, right, during the time of King Jeroboam II. Okay, I'm going to go up a bit. See here. 2 Kings 14 and 22. And it says here, he built Elath and restored it to Judah. After that, the king slept with his fathers. In the 15th year of Amaziah, the son of Joash, king of Judah, Jeroboam, the son of Joash, king of Israel, began to reign in Samaria and reigned 41 years. So this was Jeroboam II, right? King of the northern kingdom. And he did that which was evil in the sight of the Lord. He departed not from all the sins of Jeroboam, the son of Nebat, who made Israel to sin. He restored the coast of Israel from the entering of Hamath onto the plain, or onto the sea of the plain. So the Lord used Jeroboam II, even though he, as it says here, he went astray from the Lord. He did evil in his sight. The Lord still used him to bring some form of relief or deliverance to Israel, hence recovering some territories for them, right? As it says, the coast of Israel. According to the word of the Lord, God of Israel, which he spake by the hand of his servant Jonah, the son of Amittai, the prophet, which was of Gath-Hepher. And that's the same Jonah we read of in the book of Jonah. So Jonah, according to this, right, had prophesied concerning this recovering of the territories or the lands of Israel back for them, which Jeroboam II ended up doing. Okay, verse 26, for the Lord saw the affliction of Israel, that it was very bitter, for there was not any shut up, nor any left, nor any helper for Israel. Because remember, at this time, we also did have foes and adversaries, right? Mainly also against Syria, all right, the Arameans. All right. Verse 27, and the Lord said, not that he would blot out the name of Israel from under heaven, but he saved them by the hand of Jeroboam, the son of Joash. So now let's read a bit about Jeroboam. Okay, just a little bit of information here concerning him. So it says Jeroboam II, also referred to as Jeroboam, the son of Jehoash, was the successor of Jehoash, alternatively spelled Joash, and the 13th king of the ancient kingdom of Israel, over which he ruled for 41 years in the 8th century BC. His reign was contemporary with those of Amaziah and Uzziah, kings of Judah. Jeroboam is the 4th king of the house of Jehu, and the longest reigning king of the kingdom of Israel in Samaria. He is described as a military commander who fought Syria. So now when we go, I'm going to go down a bit more. See. Down here, we'll read this last paragraph. It says here, under Jeroboam, the God of Israel was worshipped at Dan and Bethel and at other old Israelite shrines through actual images, such as the golden calf. So under his reign, they, like, sort of like what they did in the wilderness, right? But they were worshiping actual, idols, but attributing that, saying, like, putting the glory of the Most High on that, right? Basically, like creating an image to the Most High and worshiping that. Okay, which, going back to what that's what Jeroboam the 1st, right, the son of Nebat, started when he created those idols there because he didn't want Israel to go back to Jerusalem 3 times in a year and then have their hearts, go after Rehoboam and leave him. It says, these services at Dan and Bethel, at Gilgal and Beersheba were of a nature to arouse the indignation of the prophets and the foreign cults. Both numerous and degrading contributed still further to arousing of the prophetic spirit. Jeroboam's reign was the period of the prophets Hosea, Joel, Amos, and Jonah, all of whom condemned the meta-realism and selfishness of the Israelite elite of their day. Quote unquote, woe unto those who lie upon beds of ivory, eat lambs from the flock and calves, and sing idle songs. This is a quote, I think it's from one of the books, probably from one of the prophets, maybe Amos, maybe Hosea, who knows. Well, we know, but It says here, the book of Kings condemns Jeroboam for doing evil in the eyes of the Lord, meaning both the oppression of the poor and his continuing support for the cult centers of Dan and Bethel in opposition to the temple in Jerusalem. He was allowed to reign for 41 years because he protected the prophet Amos. And here the source they have is from the exile of the 10 lost tribes. Well, I haven't come across any mention of this scripturally. All right, so, can't fully verify that last part there. But all in all, a bit of information about Jeroboam II. So we know that similar to how the prophets around, the contemporary prophets prophesied against Israel, the elders, the princes, the nobility for their wickedness, Jonah must have done something similar. However, in the book of Jonah, this focuses more on the event, right, of the Lord sending Jonah to Assyria, okay, or Nineveh, right, under the Assyrian Empire. Because at this point, you had the Neo-Assyrian Empire that was set up, right, going as far back as 911 BC over here, okay? So from around the 9th to the 7th century, they were there, and they continued to expand their domain and their territory and their rule. However, they were known and even bragged about it for a lot of very, brutal means, and pretty wicked and godless living within their lands. Okay, and even to the things that they did to their captives. Okay, so as we can see here, it's not just Israel that the Lord brings judgment against, but also even these other nations, right? Going into some examples are even the Canaanites, right? And the other nations that were dwelling in the land, as the Lord mentioned, that he drove them out because of their wickedness, right? So the Lord does bring judgment upon nations for their wickedness. Now, dealing with the Neo-Assyrian Empire, let me see what's on here. Let's scroll down a bit. Okay, so it says here, the empire, I'm just going to read from this part here, right? The empire grew even more under Ashur-Nasir-Pal's successor, Shalmaneser III. But this wasn't the fifth, right? This is the third. This is before Shalmaneser V that played a major role in the destruction and deportation of the Israelites of the northern kingdom. It's as though it entered a period of stagnation after his death, referred to as the Age of the Magnates. During this time, the chief wielders of political power were prominent generals and officials. The central control was usually weak. This age came to an end with the rule of Tiglath-Pileser starting around 745. And I think this was right around the ending of Jeroboam II's reign. Okay, so, by this, we know that the Assyrians didn't actually conquer and start deporting the northern kingdom until, Tiglath-Pileser and then Shalmaneser V and so on, right? Mainly during the time of Shalmaneser V, but I believe even Tiglath-Pileser, however you want to pronounce it, I believe he also ended up deporting some Israelites during his time. Not much, right, and not in bulk, but a few of those in the northern kingdom. I'm not sure if it listed here as well, but let's see. Okay, so it says here, I read the second paragraph. The strategy employed by Tiglath-Pileser in his successful conquest of the Levant was carefully thought out and prepared. Instead of attacking the strongholds of larger states, he first subdued smaller kingdoms through fast and wide-ranging attacks. The early conquests brought coastal and flatlands under his rule, which meant that Assyrian troops in the later campaigns could march through the region fast and efficiently. During the campaign against Hama, Tiglath-Pileser conquered and annexed the Neo-Hittite kingdom of Patin. Hama was spared full annexation and the kingdom being allowed to remain somewhat independent as a vassal state. The victory inspired more states in the region to pay tribute to the Assyrians, including the Phoenician city of Biblios, the kingdom of Israel, and various states of eastern Anatolia, and some Arab tribes. Israel and Damascus has sent aid to Hama during the conflict. So, during his time, even before Shalmaneser V, right, we were still, subject under him or under the Assyrians, right? And then later on, around 727-ish, or let's say the 720s, is where you have that siege of Samaria and the bulk, or the mass deportation of Israelites, the northern kingdom, into Assyria. So going back to the time of Jonah, at this point, Assyria is not, the northern kingdom haven't been deported and sent to Assyria just yet, right? That would come some time after. So you had the Assyrians here were actual Assyrians. Now, it's possible that you might have had some Israelites among them, right, through migration and so on. But the bulk of these people were, actual Assyrians, which the Lord sent Jonah to go and prophesy against, right, or at least to warn them. So this is Jonah chapter 1, verse 1. Now the word of the Lord Yahweh came unto Jonah, the son of Amittai, saying, Arise, go to Nineveh, that great city, and cry against it. Right, and that was the capital of the Assyrian Empire, Nineveh. For their wickedness is come up before me. But Jonah rose up to flee unto Tarshish from the presence of the Lord. And I believe Tarshish is Spain. So he tried to flee west, right, from Israel. And in the third or fourth chapter, it explains why it is he tried to flee. All right, because he didn't want to go and prophesy to them because he felt like it would be in vain. Right, as we'll read when we get there. It says here, and went down to Joppa, which is a port city where you could board, a ship. And he found a ship going to Tarshish. So he paid the fare thereof and went down into it to go with them on to Tarshish from the presence of the Lord. All right, and where was the Lord is omnipresent, but his presence is mainly in Israel. So he tried to flee out of there. But the Lord sent out a great wind into the sea, and there was a mighty tempest in the sea. This was a great storm, so that the ship was like to be broken. So that ship was getting tossed to and fro, and it looked like it was it was going to be crushed under those waves. And then the mariners, which were the sailors, were afraid and cried every man unto his God, and cast forth the wares, which is a cargo that were in the ship, into the sea to lighten it of them, so that it would be, it wouldn't sink right away, if anything, right? Because it would be lighter. But Jonah was gone down into the sides of the ship, and he lay and was fast asleep. So he was knocked out. He was ready to open his eyes, and he's on a new land. So the shipmaster came to him and said unto him, What meanest thou, O sleeper? So you can imagine everybody's panicking. They're throwing things overboard. And so the shipmaster, he comes down, he's checking to see what's out here. And he sees Jonah knocked out. And he's like, yo, now what you think you're doing? Like, here it is. We're about to die, right? We're all, desperately fighting for our lives. And you out here sleeping? Arise, get up. Call upon thy God. So if so be that God will think upon us that we perish not. So somebody's God is going to respond. and hopefully have mercy on us and deliver us for whoever it is sake. And they said every one to his fellow, come and let us cast lots, that we may know for whose cause this evil is upon us. So they understood this wasn't just by coincidence. Somebody in here is the reason for this, because it doesn't just happen like this for no reason. So they cast lots, and the lot fell upon Jonah. Then said they unto him, tell us, we pray thee, for whose cause is this evil upon us? So what did you do something? Why? What's the matter here? Because the lot fell upon you. So something related to you is causing this. What is thine occupation? What do you do? And whence comest thou? Where did you come from? What land? Who are you? What is thy country? And of what people art thou? And he said unto them, I am an Hebrew, and I fear the Lord Yahweh, the God of heaven, which hath made the sea and the dry land. Then were the men exceedingly afraid. So they thought they were afraid before. Now they were even more afraid. And think about it. He just told them his God made the sea and the land, and they're on the sea, and the sea is raging. So in their minds, they're thinking, you as it says, why hast thou done this? So, and he's going to explain why they said that. For the men knew that he fled from the presence of the Lord, because he had told them. So they're thinking, your God, who they would think the God of the sea, right? God of the land and the sea, who created the sea, you gonna flee from him onto the sea with us on here? Then said they unto him, what shall we do unto thee, that the sea may be calm unto us? For the sea wrought and was tempestuous, right? So the sea was it was like the craziest storm they've experienced. So they're asking like, all right, well, you clearly you know what you've done. So what is it? What do we got to do so that we can survive this? And he said unto them, take me up and cast me forth into the sea. So throw me into the ocean. So shall the sea be calm unto you. For I know that for my sake this great tempest is upon you. Nevertheless, the man rowed hard to bring it onto the land. So they didn't want to explore that option just yet, because in their minds they're thinking, well, that's like we're killing the dude, right? So they wanted to exhaust their options. They said, you know what, let's just at least try to row and get the ship, to land. But they could not, for the sea wrought and was tempestuous against them. So imagine the ship being lifted up left, right, because the water is literally, roaring, you could say. Wherefore they cried unto the Lord Yahweh and said, we beseech thee, O Yahweh, we beseech thee, which is like we beg you. Let us not perish for this man's life, because eventually they realized rowing is pointless. We're going to need to actually throw this guy overboard. So you know what? The God that he just said is doing this. Let's just, put our case before him. Let's beg him and just let him know, as it says here, don't put this man's life on us. Don't let us bear his guilt, because apparently he's done something and you are doing whatever it is you want to do. And he said, this is what we got to do to survive. So, fair disclaimer. Let us not perish for this man's life, and lay not upon us innocent blood. For thou, O Yahweh, hast done as it pleased thee. So this is all you're doing. We're just trying to survive. So they took up Jonah and cast him forth into the sea, and the sea ceased from her raging. So you can imagine that after throwing him in there, the sea might roar a little bit, and then eventually it just starts to calm down. Then the men feared Yahweh exceedingly, and offered a sacrifice unto the Lord, and made vows. So at that point they realized, whatever that God that he just mentioned, that was the cause, because all of a sudden everything stopped now. So as it says, they offered a sacrifice unto the Lord, which, offering a sacrifice in general, men knew how to do. Okay. But they would offer it often to their gods. So here, having witnessed this, they offered sacrifices onto the God of Jonah, having witnessed his power just before them. And as it says, and made vows. Now, whatever vows they made, we don't know. Right, whether it was, maybe some of them had bad history. Maybe they were, wicked people. Who knows? But they must have vowed whatever vows. Lord, if you save our life, if you get us where we're gonna go safely, then we're gonna do this, or we won't do that anymore. right? Whatever the case is, that's what they did. Now the Lord Yahweh had prepared a great fish to swallow up Jonah. And Jonah was in the belly of the fish 3 days and 3 nights. So eventually, after he was cast into that ocean, a fish, a big fish, as it says, a great fish, swallowed him. Okay, swallowed him whole. And that's where he stayed. Imagine that, 3 days and 3 nights. That's a whole fast, right? Inside of inside of the insides of a fish. You at that point, you're thinking you're gonna die, which is what Jonah was thinking as we go into the second chapter. But we're gonna end it here. That brings us to the end of the book of Jonah, the first chapter. Lord willing, that was edifying to the elect. In closing, I want to give all praises, honor, and glory to Yahweh, Bahasham, Yahweh Shai, Bahasham, Recha, Kodash. And until next time, Shalom.